First here, we now have a political arms race. Texas just passed a new congressional map to boost Republicans. California plans to change its map to favor Democrats. And Florida could make the next move by changing our map. This could shake up the midterm elections in Florida and swing the balance of power in Washington. Fox 13's political editor Craig Patrick explains how this all started and where it could all lead.
Beyond street protests, we can see growing disapproval of President Trump in the polls. The numbers vary, but we see the same trend. For example, his approval rating is nearly 5 points underwater in the Real Clear Politics average, while he's 9 points under in a New York Times average of polls. And that could cost Republicans control of Congress. The president's party tends to lose seats anyway in midterm elections. And that's the context for Trump pressing Texas to erase Democratic-leaning districts to create more Republican-leaning House seats. And Texas Republicans passing a new map with those 5 new districts he wants. On CNBC, Trump said he won Texas by such a wide margin, he's entitled to it.
And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
Then California's Democratic governor retaliated with plans to wash out the 5 new Republican districts in Texas with 5 new Democratic districts in California.
The idea that the President of the United States says he's entitled to 5 seats should sicken everybody.
And that ignited the partisan arms race we have today, with Republican politicians in other states like Florida now pushing to change their maps and Democrats crying foul.
This is purely about a power grab of the Republican Party.
We can trace this all back more than 200 years to a politician named Elbridge Gerry. He rigged the map of Massachusetts to help his partisan friends get elected, and the districts curved and wiggled so much. Critics said it looked like a salamander and mockingly called it a gerrymander. And the pronunciation later morphed into gerrymander. It came to describe the way politicians cram the districts with voters from one party or the other to keep the other party from winning those districts. Now, it happened, but wasn't as widespread 50 years ago when Republicans had moderate and liberal wings in the Northeast and in California, and Democrats had a conservative wing in the South that helped balance both parties. But as both parties lost one of their wings and pulled right and left, they began to dominate different parts of the country, which gave them more power to gerrymander the maps to favor Republicans in the red states and Democrats in the blue states. And in a 2019 court challenge, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed it, which Texas Republicans now use to justify changing their map to favor Republicans.
Supreme Court says we can use political and partisanship to do congressional redistricting.
But unlike Texas, Florida has a state amendment that bans changing the map to favor any particular party. So you won't hear the governor say he wants to redraw the map to help his party. He says his motive is to adjust the map to account for changes in population.
We got a raw deal in the census. We only got 1 seat. When some of these other states were getting seats, when we've obviously had more growth, we should have gotten at least 2.
Now, for context, Florida can change the lines of existing seats, but cannot add a seat unless we recount the nation's population through the next U.S. Census. And that won't happen for another 5 years unless the president and Congress call for one now, which would face challenges.
This country has never taken a mid-decade census, but even if it did, the law is very clear. It cannot be used to reapportion Congress or to redraw congressional district lines.
Well, Governor DeSantis has raised concerns about districts that are specifically and sometimes unusually drawn to increase minority populations within them. They're called communities of interest, and they're intended to increase minority representation in Congress. The governor removed one of those districts 3 years ago and could remove another in South Florida, among other changes, when the legislature reconvenes. Craig Patrick, Fox 13 News.
Coming up in our next half hour, we'll take a deeper look into how Texas lawmakers voted to redraw the state's congressional maps and what is next from Democrats there.